Mars has always captured the fascination of humanity. It is, after all, the next-door neighbor of Earth and visible easily for most of the year. Ever since the ancient times, humans have been fascinated by what lies beyond our world. The fact that the Great Pyramids of Giza aligned perfectly with Orion's belt is a testament to the age-old fascination we've always had with other planets. While in the past we could only observe the stars and planets in our solar system, today we actually have the means to reach out and see for ourselves what secrets they may hold. The Mariner 4 was the first probe sent by NASA to successfully orbit the Red Planet all the way back in 1965. The probe was initially sent out on a recon mission to photograph the planet, and the images it sent back were all focused around impact craters. This led scientists to think that the surface of Mars was cratered very much like the surface of the Moon. Mariner 6 and 7 were consecutively sent to photograph the surface of Mars, and coincidentally they followed the exact path of Mariner 4, which meant that all the photos taken by Mariner 6 and 7 were also focused on the heavily cratered regions of Mars. This helped solidify the belief that Mars had a dormant surface very much like our Moon. Mariner 9 was meant to be the final Mariner mission. Just after it got into orbit in 1972, Mars got hit by a planet-wide storm that stirred up great dust clouds that made it impossible to photograph anything. As a result, Mariner 9 didn't begin photographing the surface of Mars for 3 months. Once the dust finally settled, Mariner 9 began to take photographs and became one of the most successful Mars missions to date because it managed to map 100% of Martian surface, giving scientists images that they'd never seen before. Mariner 9 showed us that Mars had volcanoes, valleys, seabeds, a Grand Canyon almost 5,000 kilometers wide, and other astonishing landscapes that completely shattered the previously held belief that Mars was like our Moon. For the first time, the scientists had evidence to believe that Mars had, at some point in the past, been very much like Earth. All of the Mariner missions that made it to Mars were able to outlive their expected lifetimes, collecting valuable data and taking measurement of the Martian atmosphere that helped the scientists understand that the surface of Mars was diverse. It had many mountains, deep craters, and canyons. This gave NASA a lot of possible sites to choose for future missions. Once NASA had mapped the surface of Mars, the next obvious question was whether or not Mars had the right conditions to sustain life. Are there little green aliens on Mars, spying on everything we do on Earth? What about the pyramids and buildings shaped like human faces on Mars? Well, making first contact with little green aliens or exploring the Martian pyramids required NASA to actually send rovers. And this is where the Viking missions come in. The Viking missions have their own place in history when it comes to Mars. It became the first mission to successfully land a probe to carry out an investigation of the Martian surface. The Viking project consisted of 2 orbiters and 2 landers. Both orbiters entered the Martian atmosphere together and dropped Viking 1 on the Plains of Gold and Viking 2 on Utopia Planitia. The 2 probes lived well beyond their expected lifetime. Both Viking 1 and 2 were designed for 90 days, but continued carrying out assessments of the Martian soil for up to 4 years. The main objective of the Viking mission was to find out whether the soil of Mars contained life or whether it could contain life. The findings of the Viking mission revealed that due to solar radiation and extreme dryness of the topsoil, there were no living organisms in the top layer of soil. So no little green aliens were found. Probably because the landing probe was designed to be stationary. This is probably why NASA decided to add wheels to the next probe they sent to Mars. The Mars Pathfinder was launched in 1996, almost 2 decades after the Viking mission. The Pathfinder mission was, to a great extent, designed to establish the technological advancements that had occurred in the last 2 decades. The first major demonstration of the Pathfinder mission was its direct approach to atmospheric entry and landing. The Pathfinder mission entered the atmosphere directly with a parachute to slow down the descent. It then deployed the airbags to cushion the landing. Those of you who are old enough will remember animations of the lander cocooning in the airbags rolling down the Martian hills. This was hailed as a great technological leap. because NASA could use the airbags to send rovers with sensitive equipment that would not get damaged upon impact. Both the lander and the rover were equipped with the latest instruments of that time to carry out detailed analysis of the Martian soil and atmosphere. From first landing until the final data transmission in 1997, the Mars Pathfinder transmitted over 2.3 trillion bits of information during its lifetime, including images, chemical analysis of rocks, and data on the planet's weather. All of the findings sent by the Pathfinder mission point towards the fact that Mars was once warm and wet, just like Earth. At some point, it may have even hosted alien life. The Pathfinder mission witnessed mini tornadoes on Mars, as well as water ice clouds in the lower atmosphere and magnetic dust. The findings of the Pathfinder had made Mars infinitely more interesting than it previously was. Next in line to go to Mars was the Mars Global Surveyor that was launched in 1996, and it began its mission to map the surface and atmosphere of Mars in 1999. The Mars Global Surveyor has been one of the most successful orbiting missions to date. During its mission, the Mars Global Surveyor found that Mars has recurring weather patterns just like Earth. There are dust storms that take place each year at almost the same time and in the same location. The Mars Global Surveyor mission also found that Mars doesn't have an active magnetic field, which explains the high level of solar radiation that the planet's exposed to. Instead of a planetary magnetic field, Mars has localized magnetic fields. The lack of magnetic field also explains why the Martian soil is so dry. The constant bombardment of radiation has dried up the soil and made it extremely difficult to find any fossilized life forms if they were ever there to begin with. The 2001 Mars Odyssey mission is another worthy mention in the line of successful probes sent to the Red Planet. The Odyssey mission is an orbiter that's still functional. The objective of the Odyssey mission was to map the distribution of chemicals and minerals in the Martian surface. One of the critical findings of the Odyssey mission is that the radiation in the lower atmosphere of Mars is twice that of Earth. This is a critical piece of information for the upcoming Mars colonization mission. Any future manned missions and settlements will have to account for radiation shields to protect the astronauts from solar radiation. The Odyssey orbiter is still active and is now functioning as a relay between various different rovers present on Mars. Odyssey basically makes it clear that Mars is how Earth may look in the future if our magnetic field collapses and our atmosphere leaks away into space. This realization somehow increased our fascination with Mars because with the new millennium, the frequency and tech level of Mars missions increased drastically. The Spirit and Opportunity rovers are some of the most popular rovers ever sent out by man. They were launched in January 2004 and were equipped with some of the latest equipment to analyze the surface of Mars for signs of any microbial life. The landing mechanisms of both Spirit and Opportunity rovers was the same as the Pathfinder mission. They used parachutes and airbags to cushion the landing. Both rovers landed on opposite sides of the planet, and both rovers were considerably bigger than the Pathfinder mission, which allowed them to carry more equipment. Spirit landed at Gusev Crater, a possible former lake in a giant impact crater. Opportunity landed at Meridiani Planum, a place where mineral deposits suggest that Mars had a wet history. Both rovers have found enough evidence to conclude that Mars did indeed have water and a warm atmosphere once that could have sustained microbial life. Both rovers exceeded their expected lifetime, which was only 90 days. The Spirit rover stopped communicating in 2010, whereas the Opportunity rover kept on exploring Mars until 2018, when a planet-wide dust storm caused the rover to shut down its system for hibernation. Once the storm was over, engineers of NASA tried to wake the rover up, but they could not establish communication. The life story of Spirit and Opportunity is worthy to be made into a movie. These two rovers define the peak of our ability to not only send rovers to Mars, but also control every single movement they make from Earth. Opportunity got badly stuck in a sand dune on Mars, and the team at NASA back on Earth had to spend weeks planning how to drive the rover to make sure that it did not dig itself in. While the rover getting stuck was a very major problem, It allowed NASA to study the soil and also realized that in the future, it would need to incorporate onboard AI to make future rovers more efficient. The Curiosity joined the party on the 26th of November 2011. In terms of technology, Curiosity symbolized a technological leap because NASA tested a completely new landing system than they had previously used for any of their past rovers. Instead of using the airbags, NASA opted for a 4-stage landing approach. First, the spacecraft, or the capsule, entered into the atmosphere of Mars, and then opened up the huge supersonic parachute to slow the descent. Then the heat shield was jettisoned away, followed by releasing the rover and the Sky Crane. The Sky Crane carried the rover. It used the powerful thrusters to control the descent and lower the rover gently onto the surface before flying and crashing away from the touchdown site. Curiosity landed without any damage, and the ground team at Houston activated the rover to begin its mission. Curiosity was equipped with the latest equipment available at the time to carry out detailed analysis of the soil. The rover is also carrying a laser that it uses to blast rocks apart to study them. What nobody at NASA mentions is that the laser could also be used for self-defense should little green aliens try to abduct the rover to experiment on it. Curiosity, like its predecessors, has the same objective of finding out whether Mars, at some point in the past, could support basic life forms. Curiosity is also equipped with more advanced instruments and is able to move on a more diverse range of terrain than Opportunity could. Thanks to its bigger ground clearance and plutonium-based power source that allows it to function even during Martian dust storms, Curiosity is still going to this day. Although some of the instruments have started to malfunction, the rover is still able to carry out experiments and analysis of soil and rock samples. Curiosity has been the most successful rover on Mars to date, both in terms of the instruments it's carrying and in terms of its overall structure and maneuverability, which is why the Perseverance rover, which is the latest rover that's been sent to Mars, is designed after Curiosity. The Perseverance rover was launched by NASA on the 30th of July 2020 and sent to Mars to look for any signs of microbial life. Although the mission objective of Perseverance may sound similar to earlier missions, it's different. Earlier missions analyzed the rock and soil samples for signs of any past life on Mars, whereas the Perseverance mission is going to actively look for any signs of present life on Mars. In addition to this, the rover has been designed to collect and store samples so that a future mission can bring them back to Earth for greater analysis. Similarly, even though the Perseverance rover looks very much like the Curiosity rover, since it's based on the same design concept, it's fundamentally different from Curiosity. Perseverance is bigger and has more technologically advanced equipment and a little surprise up its sleeve called Ingenuity. The biggest difference is the fact that Perseverance rover is also carrying a drone called Ingenuity. Yes, for the first time, NASA has been able to send not only a highly advanced robotic rover, but also a drone helicopter. NASA has nicknamed the Perseverance rover Percy and the Ingenuity drone as Ginny. Sounds like there were clearly some Harry Potter fans in the team that designed the mission, as the rover and the drone have been very aptly named after the Weasley siblings. The Perseverance mission used the landing technique similar to the Curiosity mission, but with a twist. Once the heat shield is jettisoned away, the rover can get a good view of the surface, allowing the onboard AI to make its own decision of a suitable landing zone. The Perseverance mission landed successfully on the 18th of February 2021, and since then has been conducting various tests and analysis of the Martian soil to find any evidence of life that may still be present. In addition to these tests, Ginny has become the first ever drone to fly on Mars. To date, Ginny has flown on Mars at least 6 times, landing successfully each time, taking measurements and readings that will allow future drones to fly better in the thin atmosphere of Mars. Although we haven't found any extraterrestrial life on Mars yet, humankind has, through collective endeavor, learned a lot about Mars in the last 5 decades of space exploration. We know for certain that Mars once had flowing water on its surface and possible life forms. We're yet to find evidence of any life form on Mars, but what we have found so far shows that Mars may have once been suitable for life. It may not be habitable right now, but Elon Musk is all set to create a settlement on Mars and possibly terraform it to make it habitable for humans in the future. Whether terraforming is possible or not is a different debate, but after 5 decades of sending landers, robots, and drones, we're getting closer to the first manned mission and the eventual base on Mars. How soon do you think we'll be able to have a base on Mars? And if possible, would you go to Mars to help build the first settlement? Let us know what you think in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on the bell icon to stay updated whenever we release a new video. Other than that, thanks for watching and see you in the next one.